My name is Mark Pettipaw, and I am the CEO and owner of Mark Pettipaw Business Coaching. And today I'm going to introduce you to the 4 key steps in my process for servant leadership behavioral training. When you're done with these 4 steps, when executed properly, you should be able to do 3 things really well. Number 1, retain the best talent in the industry. Number 2, engage that best talent in the industry. And number 3, drive your business performance as a leader through the efforts and engagement of that team. And I'm going to teach you the behaviors that are going to allow you to do that and can be scaled in any organization. The trick is they are absolutely transferable skills because they are based in behaviors that can be learned by others. And they can be learned by anyone, and I plan on sharing that with you today. So a little bit about my background and my journey in leadership. I started in the stockroom in St. Bruno, Quebec at a Champ Sports. That was my first full-time job, and I worked for a great manager by the name of Andre Giroux. And he inspired me from day one. And he really triggered that initial interest in leading because I saw how much people loved working in that place, and I saw that Andre's behaviors as a leader were what causing us all want to be there and be successful. And we were a highly successful store. But because I wanted to grow and learn more, I moved from the stockroom to a key holder, to an assistant store manager, to a store manager, and then eventually I moved over to telecommunications, where I was an area manager for TELUS Mobility, running their corporate stores in Ontario and Manitoba. So my journey started in retail. And it started again from shifting those shoes to being accountable to 13 stores and 13 P&Ls across 2 provinces. In that time, I was recruited to go be a director of consumer products and lead a retail team in a pro sports environment. So, the second stop of my journey was a company called MLSE, and that was in pro sports. And I went in overseeing their retail operations in arena. So think about your Leafs jerseys, your Raptors jerseys. Hey, if you're at a concert, your concert jersey, your poster, all those things, I was accountable for those operations as well as the e-commerce platforms. Those teams reported into me. And these leadership behaviors that I put in place allowed us to have success in that role as well. And then I got promoted into a position, my first real senior management position, and that was at a little place within MLSE called BMO Field. So I was the original general manager and opened that soccer stadium in Toronto and was accountable for the entire experience on game day. Whether you were buying a beer, buying a hot dog, picking up your tickets at will call, dealing with security or ushers, getting the field ready. And the beauty of that project was we opened it from day one. I was employee number 1 and had to hire up to almost 1,000 staff, including all the part-times. Leadership was a big part of that, and leadership process that I'm going to share here was a key foundation for me to do as a leader as I grew the team and pass off and expect of my directors, managers, supervisors to be doing it with their team. So that leadership journey continued to grow in sports and entertainment. And then lastly, I really grew it at executive levels, to the VP level, to the president level, and then ultimately to the boardroom as a volunteer board director for multiple organizations and non-for-profits. The same 5 behaviors that I'm going to share today are those core behaviors that I learned in all of these stops. And they've worked across multiple industries, and they'll certainly work in yours and allow you to further engage your team, retain them, drive their productivity, help them grow their careers, and hence drive your results and improve your customer experience. If you want to learn a little more, short of the training, and you've got a couple hours to read what I think is a great book, it's available on Amazon. I wrote my very first book, and it's called The 50-Year-Old Millennial, the leadership gap exposed by the millennials, and how to close it. You'll hear a lot about servant leadership today, but no one teaches you a process or the behaviors to support the process. And I do that in the book, and I'll do that for you quickly at a high level today. So what are those 4 anchors? And I refer to 5 in the book and 5 when I train, but the first one is a one-time piece that's connected to your weekly one-on-ones. So I talk a lot about a connection meeting, which is your first one-on-one. then I talk about your weekly update meetings. And I talk about the behaviors. Think about the ability to understand an individual and how they want to be led, but hold them to the accountability of the group and the expectations of the organization. And I teach those behaviors by teaching people the art of inquiry versus advocacy, the balance of willingness versus knowledge, the art of open-ended questions, and the beauty of paraphrasing. And then I teach a little thing that I've modernized. This came out in the 1980s called Management by Wandering Around. And I've changed that to coaching during the game. And so I teach leaders how to observe behaviors live and in the moment and give the teams the feedback they need to repeat positive behaviors and recognize them, and fix deficient behaviors so the employee can grow and change that behavior and improve the result. I also teach leaders how to identify gaps in their process so they can go and create the change they need to better deliver to their teams, who can better deliver to their customers. Critical anchor is what I call the personal development strategy. So I teach owners how to work with an employee, owners and leaders on how to work with an employee, see the gaps they have in their career learning, and start to close them. So you're a supervisor and you want to be a manager tomorrow? Well, that's going to take a little longer. Let's talk about those steps that you need to learn. But let me support you. Let me give you opportunity to learn those. And that helps organizations develop what I call their bench. There's always somebody ready to go if somebody leaves, because everybody's always learning and it's strategic. And then the last piece I teach is good old performance reviews. If you follow the first 3 steps, the 4th step is easy. Performance reviews are hard to write because we try and remember what happened through the course of the year. And employees get upset at their performance review because we review what we can remember from the last 4 to 6 weeks, but it's a yearly review. So if you do regular one-on-ones, you observe them live in the moment once a month regularly while you coach during the game, you have a professional development strategy, your performance review is one that your employee will sit down at, find value, feel valued because you recognize the behaviors, and be open to the things they need to work on next year, because it's all tied to a very simple process. If you want to learn more about these steps, 1, you can go back and get that book, The 50-Year-Old Millennial, that I mentioned, is available on Amazon. 2, you can reach out to me at markpettipa.com. I can talk to you, we can set up a diagnosis meeting for your organization, and I can train your leaders. Lastly, if you're an individual who cares about your career and you're developing your own skills on your own time, I have an online course that trains the exact same 5 steps. So have a look. Thanks for listening today. All the best.